Shaparak Shajarizadeh is a former Iranian political prisoner, an activist for women's rights in Iran and around the world. She became a leader in the Girls of Revolution Street and White Wednesday civil disobedience movements. In February 2018, she was famously arrested for removing her headscarf in defiance of Iran's compulsory laws, hijab laws. Shajarizadeh Shaparak has spoken out against Iran's repression and discrimination of women at human rights events and seminars throughout Canada before the Canadian Parliament. She was named by BBC as one of the 100 most inspiring and influential women around the world in 2018. Shaparak, you have the floor.
Thank you, Hillel, UN Watch, Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights, and MacDonald Laurier Institute for inviting me to this panel. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been elected to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. This decision is an insult not only to Iranian women, but to all the women around the world, and destroys our trust in the United Nations and its commissions. The Islamic Republic of Iran is internationally well known for its background with regards to drastic violation of women's rights. Iranian women are subjected to systematic gender discrimination deeply rooted in Iranian laws, which is based on Sharia law. The Islamic regime uses hijab as a tool to repress women. The government and its followers routinely abuse and subjugate women, preventing women from having any important role in society. Because I advocated against compulsory hijab law, I was arbitrarily detained 3 times, interrogated, beaten up, and thrown into solitary confinement. It was the most frightening experience of my life. Iranian women have been tortured by intimidation in the streets, the assaults in public, the emotional abuse, being hit, assaulted, and insulted by morality police patrols, also by the leaders' followers called Basiji, because of compulsory hijab law. Iranian women are deprived of the right to choose their personal relationships, their sexual relationships, their sexual orientation, and their lifestyle. They are subjected to forced marriage and to child marriage and have to obey their husband in every way. And for that, they are the victim of legal marital rape. They are deprived of the right to divorce and child custody, the right to enter stadiums, to travel abroad without their husband's or their father's permission, to enter certain jobs and certain fields of education, to do certain fields of sports, social and cultural activities in the way of their choice. And they are deprived of the right to become a judge. Their entitlement to inheritance is half as much as their brothers. In short, their body and their mind has been taken hostage for over 42 years. The Islamic Republic of Iran has been part of the UN Commission on the Status of Women prior to this time, but there has been no improvement in the Islamic Republic of Iran's behavior toward Iranian women since then. According to the UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Iran, Javid Rahman, women and girls continue to be treated as second-class citizens in Iran. This report was published on March 8, 2021. Iranian regime has the highest rate of execution of women internationally, according to the most recent report from Amnesty International for the year 2020. According to the Gender Global Gap 2021, Iran's ranking is 150 among 156 countries and has dropped by 2 points during last year and by 42 points since 2006. Iranian regime has continued to limit women access to job opportunities even more, to promote child marriage, to limit the access to the, to encourage gender discrimination and to deepen gender gap and to cause Iranian women more pain and poverty. Iranian regime promotes oppression and practice injustice against Iranian women and continues to arrest and execute women's rights activists and to oppress any type of protest. Women like Sabah Kordafshari, Mojgan Keshavarz, Yasaman Aryani, and her mother Monire Arab Shahi got 24, 23, 16, and 15 years of prison sentence. The regime imprisoned journalists and lawyers like Nasrin Sotoudeh, Giti Purfazl, and Najmeh Wahedi. The regime used torture and rape to get forced confessions. Last month, they flogged a young political activist, Zohre Sarv, with 74 lashes. She's also sentenced to 3 years and 6 months imprisonment. Iranian regime suppressed the activists like Atena Daemi and Golrokh Irai even more in prison by charging them with additional accusations to extend the years of imprisonment. They both are serving the sentence they got during their imprisonment. Iranian regime does not believe in freedom of speech or choice or belief. There is no room for change or improvement since Islamic regime laws are based on denial of basic human rights and women's rights and their freedom. The UN Commission on the Status of Women has the responsibility to manage full and effective participation of women in decision making in public life, elimination of violence, and achieving gender equality and improvement of all women. While Iranian law and treatment of women is incompatible with those responsibilities defined by UNCSW. Iranian women and women all over the world expect the United Nations to respect human rights and women's rights and to be abide by values and principles defined in the Declaration of Human Rights. International institutions such as United Nations lose people's trust if they prioritize to ignore those principles and to stand beside the Iranian regime in oppressing, torturing, imprisonment, raping, and executing women and girls. Last month, March, on International Women's Day, the Subcommittee on International Human Rights of the Standing Committee of Foreign Affairs of Canada recognized Nasrin Sotoudeh as an international human rights champion. I attended the Canadian Parliament webinar on her behalf. Yesterday, the certificate delivered to my house while Nasrin is in prison. Now I ask the Canadian Parliament and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs if Canada voted for Iran to be elected on USCSW. In July 2020, I was invited by UN Watch to speak in United Nations Human Rights Conference. I asked the same question: why would the United Nations elect the Islamic Republic of Iran to the Commission on the Status of Women? It is still my question. Iranian women's rights activists are having a campaign against this decision, and we all appreciate your support. We raised our voice. Help us have it louder. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaparak.